Good evening, everybody. It is April 21st, Wednesday, downtown Orlando at the Mubarak Law offices. We are doing our Facebook Live this week on Wednesday because we do have a guest who could join us today. So I want to make sure that we can continue to inform you guys on topics other than immigration and have a wonderful conversation about things you need to know. As always, I appreciate you all who support us. For example, we have Mr. Belkadi here. Thank you for watching. And we will cover a couple of important topics today. And before we do that, just going to go over some quick basics. We are going to discuss personal injury today. Car accidents. What is personal injury? What other types of personal injury is there besides, the famous car accidents? Nisreen, happy Ramadan to you, Ramadan Kareem. I hope everybody's fast is going well. There's about an hour and a half left, and I promise we will be well out of your way for anybody who's fasting before it's time to eat. So as always, this will be uploaded on YouTube. So if you find this video helpful, or if you think anybody may want to watch it, please go ahead and like and share it with them and subscribe to our YouTube channel. It would be greatly appreciated. And if you have any questions after this show or during the show, feel free to leave it on our comments or send it to the email where we do the Facebook Live every week. So I'm going to go ahead and bring on our guest. And before I do, I'm going to just introduce her. So this is Kelly's Dominguez's second year with Mubarak Law. And she has been a case manager and legal clerk in our personal injury division. And Kelly has worked in personal injury for several years in New Jersey prior to coming to Orlando. And now this will be her last Administrative Assistance Day, and happy Administrative Assistance Day to everybody who works in this field. And if you are an attorney, I hope you took care of your staff today. I know we all know that they are the backbone of our firm. So thank you to my assistants and to the paralegals, the reception, everybody in our office who works so hard to provide for our clients. So Gloria, Jessica, Safat, Kelly, Isa, Gabby, Jen, all of you, and Rashni, of course, our other attorney, are all thankful for you guys. So without further ado, I'm going to bring on Kelly Dominguez. And as I mentioned, Kelly works in our personal injury division, and she is getting ready to graduate from Kelly. Why don't you tell everybody what you're about to do?
Yeah, so I just finished law school a couple of days ago. I am a student at Florida A&M College of Law here in Orlando. I will be graduating May 10th, so it's a very exciting time for myself, for the firm, for my family. Once in a couple of weeks, I will be taking a leave from the office, but everyone will be in good hands with our team just to get ready for the bar, and then hopefully I'll be back in September, August with Nayef, and hopefully in September as an attorney.
And thank you, Kelly. And yeah, we're so proud of you and congratulations on what you've achieved. And you are like the American dream from immigrants to graduating law school and joining our firm. So somebody's already wishing you congratulations from Miss Nisreen. And we are all very happy for her. So today, Kelly's on because Kelly works in personal injury, and she has for several years. And we're going to talk about what is personal injury. We hear this all the time. When I ask people, what do you do at your firm? We say immigration, personal injury. The question is always, what is personal injury? And then you say car accidents, and everybody goes, oh, okay, yeah. So, but there's more than just car accidents. So basically, personal injury. Kelly, do you want me to do the definition or? Okay, so personal injury, basically, if you're doing a lawsuit or making a claim on behalf of a victim or a family member of a victim, if they've suffered some kind of harm, bodily harm, emotional harm, physical harm, really, from the actions or the negligence of another individual. So this could be, as we mentioned, car accidents. If somebody's at fault and the other driver was negligent, then we can pursue damages against them. And then some other types of personal injury also include, and I'll let Kelly start to list it out, and we'll give some examples. And then what we're going to do is come back and talk about some important things you need to know in each type of case.
Right. So as we know, car accidents is the most common, is the easiest one to describe. We have, slip and falls, trip and falls, dog bites, and a medical malpractice. Those are usually a little bit less common, but they do happen very often. In other states, like in New Jersey, pedestrian car accidents are very common. Here, a lot of people drive, so they're not really on foot. But those are usually the ones that kind of reflect onto personal injury.
We have had some people hit on their bicycles before. And so, these are the types of other cases, for example, that can come from the personal injury world. So when we say slip and fall or trip and fall, just to give you a visual idea, if you're shopping in Walmart and there's a giant puddle of spilled milk, you slip and you fall, you get hurt. That's where the name comes from. It's pretty self-explanatory. And then they are sometimes very tricky to handle as far as personal injury claims, and we'll explain why in just a few minutes. So, but one of the big things, and something that people are very well aware of, are car accidents. And I will never stop telling you some of these tips. So we're going to go over them again, and then go one step further than we have in the past to talk about comparative negligence or comparative fault. So that's what we'll start with. So Kelly, if somebody's been in an accident, what are some tips that you think that they should do immediately after the accident?
One of the most important tips is make sure you call the police and get a report. And even if it's something minor, I know you don't want to be pulled over on the side of the road waiting and then everyone's kind of watching, but it really is so important. We have come across cases where there is no police report. It was very difficult to prove liability on those cases. It just becomes really a mess for us and for the insurance company. We're kind of battling with them. They're trying to figure everything out. It's just a lot of things that can be prevented if the police report is. It kind of just allows the officer, as a neutral third party, to say, well, they were found at fault or not. And sometimes they will say in the police report that he's not sure who was at fault because there's conflicting, statements. So I think police reports probably by far the most important. After that, just make sure you seek treatment within 14 days. That is the Florida 14-day PIP statute is 14 days, so that PIP can pay for your injuries, and this way you don't have to be fully responsible for the bills.
Kelly made a very important point, and we've said this before about calling the police. I mean, let's say you have a passenger in your car. You have that at that point, you have a witness, right? Somebody to support your version of events and to report this to the officer, which may help the officer make a decision. You may have the other driver completely accept fault and say, we don't need to call the police. This was my fault. Here's my information. And you better believe the next thing they do, they go and change their story. And then now you don't have proof of that police report. So it is really important. And another thing I want to say is, like, when you do get in an accident, or God forbid you're in an accident, you need to take pictures of your vehicle. If you've been hurt, and you are capable of taking pictures, take those pictures. If you have bruising over the course of a few days or visual injuries, you want to make sure to document this so we can show the severity of the impact and how important it is to demonstrate this to the insurance companies when we do go to make a claim for damages and your injuries. And so if you're bruising or bleeding, internal bleeding, you need to make sure that there's a way to document this. And you want to pay attention to your body, right? There's an adrenaline that kicks in. You might not feel something for the first day or two, and a couple of days later, you have back pain, you have neck pain. So, I mean, I'm not a doctor. If you're not a physician, then you should probably seek medical attention and follow their advice. Another point that I would say is, like, not really right after is following the advice of the doctor. Kelly, if somebody does not follow their medical program or doesn't complete treatment, what usually comes back from the insurance companies when we go to make our demands?
So sometimes, when there is the client just decides not to treat, and sometimes the doctors are really good in calling us and letting us know, your client's not coming for treatment. We just call the client. We state to them at the time of settlement, they're gonna state that you're not really that injured, because if you're not going to treatment, you're not actively seeking treatment. That means that maybe you're feeling better. There is times where the client doesn't go for treatment for good reasons. If it's a small policy, we can't get MRIs done. MRIs are expensive. They can range anywhere from $1,500 to $3,000. So there is times where they will stop treatment, but that's in the direction of how much is available in the policy to make sure that the client isn't stuck with the bill. But majority of the time, if your doctor does want you to get additional treatment, it's either MRIs. We always suggest the client that they go ahead and make sure that they're getting the treatment by the doctor. I mean, they're the doctors. They know.
And when you go, Kelly hit it on the head. When you go to treat and then you don't listen or don't follow the orders, they'll come back and say, you're not that injured. Look, you didn't even finish the treatment. And that can definitely affect your issue here. So some things that we want to consider, and it kind of flirted with this when we were talking about making the police report. Okay, so when I said today we're going to take it one step further, I just wanted to explain to you guys what is comparative negligence or comparative fault. So oftentimes the other party can claim that you were partially responsible or negligent for the accident that occurred. And then the insurance companies will assign or allocate a number if you're 30% at fault or this person is 60% at fault. When these numbers are assigned, affecting your, basically saying that you're 40% responsible for this, this means that you are now only able to get 60% of your claimed damages or the settlement amount. You're not going to be able to recover your full amount because 40% of that is your fault. Now, so this happens a lot when we talk about the police reports and stories changing. So that's why it's really important to have the police report done immediately. And, waiting for it, yeah, it sucks. You have to wait a few hours sometimes, but it will down the road, hopefully prevent us from having an issue. Kelly, we settled a case recently, and this was an issue. Do you want to tell everybody a little bit about that?
Sure. So this case was minimal policy in the state of Florida for a bodily injury. It's 10,000, 20,000. What that means is 10,000 per person involved in the accident, 20,000 for the entire accident, whether there's 5 or 6 or 7 claimants. So what happened in this accident was there was no police report and there was 5 claimants. Because of the no police report, the story wasn't easy for us to argue with the insurance company. So there was a comparative negligence placed on our client of 40%. So at that point, we were only able to go after the 60%, which was the 12,000 on the policy, and that becomes very difficult. It does become very difficult for us to try to settle because at this point we're arguing different, just the pennies at that point, right? Because they're saying no, we're saying yes, and it goes back and forth. If there was a police report, it would have cleared things up. It would have been a lot more easier. Yes, we can go and file a suit, but then at that point, attorney expenses go up. The client, and we have to think for the client, right? We want to make sure the client is taking majority of the money home and making sure that everything is paid, so their compensation is a good amount, and that just becomes a lot more difficult for us when there's no police report and us trying to settle that claim.
Now, just because somebody assigns the liability does not mean we have to accept it. Right. There's been cases where we've had somebody driving Uber, there was a passenger, they tried to switch the story, they didn't call the police. We went and got statements from those passengers and were able to overturn liability and to find the other driver at fault and our driver not at fault. So, and even when you file suit, as Kelly mentioned, it doesn't, their numbers won't matter. We would still be able to try to argue that the other party was completely at fault. And these pre-suit negotiations and ideas really don't matter at that point once the lawsuit is filed. Now, if we did a little poll on Instagram, it would probably say, when will Nayef stop telling us about uninsured motorist insurance, And the answer to that question and poll is never. Okay, you guys always, always, always need I think we have turned down maybe three different families that have been in accidents with multiple passengers because the other party did not have bodily injury insurance. And there is nothing to recover or pursue when you don't have And maybe Kelly can, because I'm just using my hands too much, can help us explain the lack of and the lack of BI, what happens to that individual and their bills or their damages and their ability to recover.
Right. So there's a lot of issues with that because what happens is when we take the case initially, we don't know what policy is there. So we have to send letters of representation out. We have to put the other insurance on notice. We have to put our client's insurance on notice. And at that time, the client's already treating. We probably are a month in treatment by the time we get response, or at least 2 to 3 weeks into treatment. So what will happen is our client is treating. Usually they have a deductible of $1,000. And if there is no bodily injury, which is what the other driver would have, then if hopefully the client has so we can go after their own insurance. If they don't have that thousand, let's just say minimum, right? $1,000 of the deductible that's due for PIP. Now the client's responsible for that, even though they did not cause that accident. So we try to really we push it so much, and I'm sure that's what you guys hear every single week when Nayef talks about PI, personal injury, but that's really the most important thing. It's not to the benefit of the attorneys, but it's the benefit of the client to make sure that you have protected yourself, and making sure that if you don't want to depend on other people to have insurance. You want to make sure you have the insurance to protect yourself in case something does go wrong and something happens.
So what do people say? Other lawyers say it. I've said it, is if you love somebody, tell them to get In all seriousness, this is more than just being able to make a claim. If you have catastrophic damages, if God forbid you've lost a limb, there is nothing for you to recover if the other person doesn't have proper insurance. So if you want to protect your family, and it's my serious face now, if you want to protect your family and protect yourself, you need to have this. It's like, for a couple dollars more a month, you're preventing the chance of not being able to recover if you've been damaged permanently for the rest of your life. So please consider that, okay? And with that being said, we are going to go ahead and jump to, slip and fall, trip and fall, and dog bites. So, sometimes dog bites happen. It sounds funny, but really serious injuries can come from a dog bite. Permanent scarring, mauling, muscle, just terrible things can happen when, God forbid, there's an unfortunate incident with a dog. And, we're not anti-dog here or anything, but people get hurt, and there is a way to pursue a claim. And it does get more complicated if whether or not where the bite occurred. And I'm going to invite Kelly to speak to a little bit about, the premises, and if it's an apartment building or what kind of property it is, and what issues can arise with the different types of properties.
Right. So, first of all, we love dogs. I think everyone in the office pretty much has a dog. And when we pursue a dog bite case, we're not attempting to put the dog down. That's what people have to understand. We're not going after that. We're really just going after the injuries that our client sustained. We actually had a really bad dog bite case. The client really was mauled. It was very, very scary. And what happens is when you're living in a rental, if you're renting, for example, you have renter's insurance that is covered through your renter's insurance. The property itself would not be held liable, and the reasoning for that is because if they weren't put on notice that a vicious dog was living on their property, they would have no idea that this is happening. And sometimes renters don't include their dogs in their policies, right? They don't even the property won't even know that is there. And the same thing could happen with a condo. Under the condo, you should have homeowners insurance. So that's really how we can go after cases for dog bites. Sometimes, if you get bitten by someone and you can't find insurance, or you can't find the owner of the dog, or if the dog has no renter's insurance, it's very difficult for us to be able to go after the property or the condo owner if someone's renting.
Right. That's like a big, like, a great legal loophole for these insurance companies or the homeowners association. Hey, we didn't know about this. Like, our condominium rules say this type of dog is not allowed. You must notify us if you have these type of dogs. So these are all different things that they can use to defend themselves. Now, on this particular case, I also want to mention that our client was an undocumented immigrant, right? And a lot of times, and it kind of breaks my heart to hear this, undocumented or people out of status believe that they don't have the right to bring a personal injury claim. Okay, that's not true by any means. And and just like when you're a victim of a crime, you need to come forward. If you've been injured, you need to come forward. And that's kind of how we've gotten naturally into personal injury. I've been doing immigration for over 11 years now, and basically the clients have trusted you with one of the most important aspects of their life, and now you start to come to me for everything. And we want to be able to offer this service to them. So if you're an immigrant and you're injured, if you're out of status, or even if you're on vacation and you get hurt while you're at Disney World or driving to Disney World, then you would still have the ability to bring forward a claim. So please, if that's happened to you, or if you know somebody who that's kind of happened to, please let us know, and we can see if there's anything that can be done for it. Now, before we finish shortly, I wanted to see if Kelly has a trip and fall, an example, just to kind of help people visualize the difference between slipping and tripping. I know it sounds self-explanatory, and we'll talk a little bit why these are sometimes difficult cases, as I mentioned early in the show.
So as Nayef explained, a slip and fall is really when you slip and you fall on, it could be water, any liquid. A trip and fall, for example, if you go to a restaurant, it says watch your step, usually you will see a sign. And if it's a little bit elevated and there's no sign, there's no warning, you trip and you fall, there can be very bad injuries to your knees, to your hips. So that's really what a trip and fall example is. I know it's a little bit more difficult than a slip and fall to understand, but that's roughly.
And we had a case one year where this gentleman kind of was in a restaurant and then just kind of flat ate it, right? And it was a trip and fall because there was a tiny stage kind of protruding from the side of the wall, right? Now, why are these cases always challenged? Why do these cases typically always end up in litigation? Because of the fact that they're going to argue, comparative negligence, or he should have been aware of the hazard. He should have taken his own precautions because you should watch where you're going while you're walking through a restaurant. So a lot of times these insurance companies know that many people are not going to make it to the point of filing a lawsuit because of just, fatigue and exhaustion of the process. So that is something to consider if there is a slip and fall, you want to ask for help, report it, have witnesses, and kind of document whether or not this was something that could have been avoided, or there's no way you could have, known it. Like, maybe how many times have you frequented that restaurant? How long has it been there? Was it marked? These are all things that come into play when evaluating the strength or the ability to recover on somebody's slip and fall or trip and fall case. So I do have a question here, and it says, what happens after you sign a settlement agreement? And I want Kelly to walk us through a pre-suit settlement has been reached. We have an agreement. What happens next?
So once the agreement has been, once the case settles, we get the agreement from the insurance company. And then once it is signed, during the time that it settles to the time that it's signed, we make sure we work on the bills. We make sure we contact the doctors. This way, we try to work as quickly as possible to make sure that between the time that the settlement agreement is signed and the check arrives, we're ready for disbursement. We then have to make sure we have something called a settlement statement, which describes everything. Every bill that has been paid by Mubarak Law or any law firm will usually say, whether it's postage or medical records, will have the to the penny. We will have to make sure that we have that. And then we will from there, our percentage comes out of there. You can also see if any bills are being paid. It's very detailed statements. We give a client the copy. They have to approve it before we can even cut the checks and make sure that everything is ready to go. This is a very serious part for us to make sure that all the money that is being allocated to the client is, to the best of our ability, everything is there. So from there, the client receives their check, and then, hopefully we won't have to help them again in this type of matter. But, our clients know that we're always here to help, or if they have any questions in the future.
So we typically also have to hold the check in the trust account for about 2 weeks to make sure that the funds are cleared and make sure that the bills have been kind of settled. And that's a big important part too. Is settling these bills and negotiating with your medical providers about reducing these bills because of whether or not they've received proceeds from or payments from the insurance companies or not. So that is how a lot of the settlement that you see advertised on billboards or whatever it may be. I've received $400,000. Well, no, they probably didn't receive $400,000. That may have been the settlement amount. Take away 33 to 40% of attorney's fees, take away medical bills. These are all these different things that are going to be subtracted from the settlement agreement. And what we try to do at our office and promise at our office is that you'll always recover more than us. So we try to make sure that happens. In some cases, that might not be the situation, but we always try to find a way, whether it's a reduction or something, to make sure that the client is, being served here. So, that was basically why we felt like it was important for you all to remember that we do personal injury and car accidents, especially for our immigrant communities, that we're here for you. And if you have any questions for me or for Kelly, please reach out to either of us or send a question online through our website at mubaraklaw.com. And there's our phone number there. And as you hear the church bells, our 30 minutes or so are up. Kelly, thank you for joining us on probably your last live before your graduation in a couple of weeks. And congratulations once more on your graduation. We look forward to having you back here at the end of summer. Any last words?
Thank you. It's been really my pleasure being with Mubarak Law for 2 years now. I started as a 1L. I was, just freshly almost done with my first year of law school before I went and signed and I met Nayef at school actually. And it's been a good ride. Even COVID, we've had a strong team. And thank you to everyone. And if anyone has any questions, please give us a call. Sometimes the law is very kind of commingled, and we can help in certain areas. We may not help in everything, but we can always refer. We refer our clients out, make sure that we have referrals that we can get people out to it in case we don't handle a certain matter in the office.
If we can't help you, we'll try to get you in trusted hands. And thank you for adding that. It's such an important point. And again, we'll see you guys next week for a Facebook Live. If you have any topic or particular questions you'd like to hear about, we'll send out a poll and see if we can help serve you guys more. So thank you again, and have a good night, everybody.
Thank you.